This is a National Museum of Australia production. For more information, visit nma.gov.au.
I think what's one of the wonderful things about this composition is the way you've responded to the museum by saying, yes, there's the museum itself, which is a sort of place of doing history and kind of encountering history. There's things like the collections, which are the remnants of other people's lives, which we can perhaps connect with them, but then your own personal history and musical history. And I think one of the movements also is a tribute to a Beethoven piece and an engagement with a Beethoven piece.
Exactly, it's going back in history and connecting with Europe. So seeing this, us as a whole world, not just this country, but the connection from where also people came, and the culture from which obviously my ideas stem from European music.
Because you immigrated to Australia in 1975, is that correct?
Exactly, yes. From a former Soviet Union. Yep. I studied in Moscow, and so I obviously brought a lot of that influence, a lot of, not just Beethoven, obviously, because that's obviously Viennese and German culture, but also very Russian culture. My music obviously sounds a lot like Tchaikovsky and Rachmaninoff, and because that's what I was really brought up on. That was my nourishment.
Yes,
at home.
Yeah, and it's so interesting to me that the National Museum would be a place that elicits that from you again and kind of brings it up again in a
exactly,
musical form.
And I tried not to just do it's not just about me. Obviously, all my pieces, of course, have a lot of me in them. But of course, this was a commission from the National Museum, and I needed to see how I can make this piece not sound Russian, for example, but sound, kind of global. And the first movement also has didgeridoo in it, and last movement also has didgeridoo in it. It's called Evolving. My last movement was to do with how life continues, how the history still goes on, and in the end, we have actually a song almost sung. We had William Barton sing it and play didgeridoo. So he's. Went at the end, it's sort of not kind of finishing at all. It continues. We never wanted it to end somehow. I remember we kind of didn't know how to end it because it just continued, and William kept singing, and it just kind of with the cello, it just kind of evolved into nothing.
That's history and life.
But it's basically could continue, and then we can continue again the piece because at the very beginning, the first movement, it started like this. The one that then went into Beethoven, but so there are 6 movements altogether, and they all have to do with this place and what it connects and what it collects and what it holds and what it's going to hold. So I think you look forward, into the future.
And Elena, you come sort of back today. We're lucky to have you back at the museum again to perform 2 particular movements, which is the one about the convict love tokens and the one about the Kimberley points. And I think the love tokens one is so interesting because there is a sound in there that's perhaps slightly, not a literal kind of interpretation, but more a direct reference to how those objects were made by convicts stippling pennies with a metallic hammer and a thing to put little messages on them. And I know there's a sound in there that is more exactly perhaps your imagination of that process.
Yeah, that's actually the first thing I wrote of the whole piece. I thought I'll start with the stenciling of this, you call it stippling, I call it stenciling, because
I'm a curator and you're a musician.
And I'm just, my terminology is not there. Anyway, so I thought something that would remind you of the metal and in hitting with a kind of instrument of some sort, a hammer or something. And I thought, what would that be in the orchestra? And it could be many things. It could be anvil, but anvil, funny enough, doesn't sound like that. It sounds a little bit too high and not quite presenting that metallic sort of hard sound. So what's actually in the end, I used xylophone, and very high, because when it's really high, it loses its sort of wooden kind of sound. It becomes more metal. And on the piano, it also sounds quite nice when it's really high. So it started like this. And then I added something on top of that. So together it'll be. I mean, it's kind of hard to put together. Usually it's two different people playing. And then it has, so while it has some kind of playful character, because I believe that's where the idea of the convict to do that, it was quite playful, even though it must have been very hard. But I'm saying not the whole, the actual activity was playful, but the thought that maybe it would be nice, playful may be the wrong word, just it's actually kind of a longing for something, but not making it very sad, you know, because I could have written is in the minor key. I could have done this. It would have been just trying to extract a tear. I don't believe in those things. I don't do that. I believe to stand back and just imagine, first of all, the activity itself. And it sounds less playful when it's not just piano. So the next thing, I thought I'll bring romance into this. And so it'll... strings, and so it's a kind of longing for love and because
of course these were tokens that people left behind with their loved ones, didn't they, when they came out to Australia?
They put the messages of love onto those tiny coins. I don't know how they did it. It must have been so small. And
again, a lot of time on their hands.
And this is why it's not so big. It's actually quite small. I guess it's subconsciously you go for a certain texture which is not very epic, you know, because we are thinking that small, you know. So a coin. So again, another thing, when you look at the coin, it's quite round, even though not perfectly round. Yep. They're different shapes, but this is like a circular. For me, it's a circular movement. You know, a triad, a chord. It goes like this. If I would have done this, that would not be like that. See, but we're going back. So that's another thing that was kind of in my mind. So even though it's not quite consciously, I'm just thinking about this. How did that come about? That it's like that?
Lena, that's the end of my questions. I think. Is there anything else you would like to?
No. But thank you for asking me all these great questions and for inviting me here, because that's actually very, very special. It's really great.
You can download more programs from nma.gov.au. National Museum of Australia. Discover what it means to be Australian.